My name is Rockney Cole, and I practice criminal defense since 2000 here in the city of Iowa City. I think this election is going to be a really exciting election between two very capable people, Janet Linus as well as John Zimmerman. First, I'd like to say that I think that both candidates have a lot of terrific qualities. And first and foremost, I commend Janet Linus. There's a lot of things that she has done well. She was a pioneer in some of the early efforts to protect victims of domestic violence. On an ad hoc basis, she's done some good things. But I think right now, our community is a community in transition. We have new members of our community that do not feel that they're a part of our system. We have, I think, large numbers who feel that they have not been treated fairly by law enforcement. And I think Janet's aware that this problem exists. And I think some of our law enforcement are aware of this problem exists. But I think the real issue that we face is that they're not responding in a way to offer meaningful solutions. And that's why I'm so excited that John Zimmerman is running for county attorney. We're going to see a greater level of transparency, accountability, and community outreach. And one of the things I'm really excited about with John's candidacy is that throughout this campaign, we're going to be able to talk about some of the core issues that affect our community. Racial justice, excessive incarceration, equal protection before the law. And you know, one of the things that we've seen, I think, in our community is that she's a good person. But one of the problems I think we've had is that we've had essentially Pat White was county attorney for several years and Janet Linus has followed. So I think really it's now a time for new vision, new opportunities, greater community outreach, and I think most importantly, the opportunity to engage in this civic debate so we as a community can really figure out what sort of community, not only where we are, but what we can become. So I'm really excited to introduce John Zimmerman. I think one of the things that really stands out with John is that he's open to new ideas, he has an engaging personality, and I want to emphasize one thing. John has experience in the things that matter. And I have every confidence that he is going to win this election, and that it's going to be a hard-fought election, and that we're going to have two excellent candidates offering their shared vision of criminal justice. So I'd like you to join me in introducing John Zimmerman to be the next county attorney of the County of Johnson. Thank you.
Thanks to you all for being here this afternoon. Thanks to Rockney for that generous introduction. I'm running for Johnson County Attorney. And I'm running to change the policies that currently lead, in my view, to over-prosecution, and to replace them with a more progressive approach to criminal justice. The policies of the current county attorney push a lot of situations into the criminal justice system that, in my view, shouldn't be there. And even for situations that should indeed be in the criminal justice system, often the current approach leads to an overly harsh consequence. The policies of the current county attorney fall especially hard on folks who are poor and on people of color. Current policies result in the over-prosecution of students and for folks whose problems with the law stem especially from untreated mental illnesses and from untreated substance abuse problems. Often the current approaches make things worse rather than better. In Iowa, it's the policies set by the county attorney that guide the work of the dozen or so county prosecutors here, the assistant county attorneys who do the day-to-day prosecution. Therefore, through the policies they put in place, the county attorney is the one person with the power in our system to end over-prosecution here and replace it with something better. And that's why I want the job. Here's some specific changes that, if elected, I will make in Johnson County's prosecution policies. Screening. The way things are now, the practice seems, for all practical purposes, to be that everything that the police bring in gets prosecuted. My policy will be that every case that gets brought in will be screened. Immediately, carefully. Screened. Not just for evidence, but also for whether it's serious enough to merit attention by the criminal justice system, and whether the overall context makes criminal prosecution the best approach. We'll also start screening specifically for racial profiling, which, as we all know, is such a big problem in our community. If I'm setting the policies for every case involving a person of color, one of the questions that will be asked is if it looks like the arrest resulted probably from racial profiling. And if it does look that way, we'll dismiss the case and make note of the officers involved. That is how to stop racial profiling. As for our unnecessarily overcrowded county jail, except in circumstances of extreme public safety, prosecutors under me will start opposing the setting of bond, or the requirement of bond, for folks who are arrested for nonviolent offenses, misdemeanor charges. When people with money get arrested, they don't have to sit in jail to wait for their day in court. And it shouldn't be different just because you're poor. But on a typical day, over 3/4 of the folks in our county jail have not been convicted. They just don't have the money to bond out before trial. Many are there for low-level and nonviolent charges. Ending this overuse of requiring bond will have the effect of significantly reducing our jail population, and in any case, innocent until proven guilty should not depend on the size of your bank account. A couple policy changes that I would bring regarding victimless crimes that currently get heavily prosecuted. Marijuana. If I'm elected, we will stop prosecuting people for personal use of marijuana. Let me repeat that. If I'm elected, we will stop prosecuting people for marijuana for personal use. It's victimless, it's not particularly harmful, and people of color get way disproportionately charged with it. No more petty marijuana charges if I win. If I win, we'll also stop prosecuting people for victimless public intoxication. Now, if someone commits a real crime when they're drunk, they should get prosecuted for that real crime. But we have a bar district, a huge bar district, right by the biggest university in the state. And the aggressive prosecution of public intox here is a big part of the reason why so many of our college students leave town with criminal records that stay with them. When it comes to people who are prosecuted, my policies will favor the creative use of alternatives to punishment, including deferred prosecutions to channel folks into things like restorative justice, mental health treatment, substance abuse treatment, things that are likely to lead to better long-term outcomes for everyone involved, and through a deferred prosecution process, won't leave these folks with criminal convictions and overwhelming fines at the end. Well, all these policies, in addition to bringing more justice in their own right, will also have the added benefit of freeing up resources to point out where they should be, protecting those who are most vulnerable from those who would harm them. And along those lines, there are some things that I think should be prosecuted even more aggressively than they currently are, like acquaintance rapes and wage theft by employers, both of which are major problems here. Which leads me to domestic violence. It's a big concern for many. It should be a big concern for all. And I want to be clear how big a concern it is for me. my frustration, anger even, at seeing abuse victims mistreated by the criminal justice system is a big reason why I came to law school in midlife. Last year, I chose to work in the law school's domestic violence clinic, where my job was to help abuse victims get protective orders against their abusers and to enforce them. If I become county attorney, I give my absolute assurance that we will be aggressive and we will be vigilant in protecting individuals impacted by domestic violence. We have 5 months until voters get to make their decision in the Democratic primary. 5 months is quite a while. So I would invite everyone to talk with me. Get your questions answered. Share your concerns. Tell me what you think I should hear, whether you think I want to hear it or not. I'm eager to talk with any group, any individual, no matter who they are, and no matter their perspective. Thanks again for being here, and I invite you to be part of this needed effort